komt zo. Yep. Does it work? Yes, it works. Okay. Well, as a rule on days like this, after lunch, you have to set people to work. Otherwise, they will fall asleep after a good lunch. So you're going to work. And the workshop we're going to do is mostly about the questions you asked this morning. How does it look? These meet criteria. How do you make them? How do you weigh them? How do you develop them? And we're going to do that in an active manner in 4 steps. And the steps are the following. First, we're going to talk about the project goals. See if you can derive some project goals from the case study we have. The second step is about going from the project goals to the meet criteria. The third step is thinking about the weights of these separate criteria. And then the last step is about assessment. And the way we're going to do it is, first, Wiebe is going to tell something about the case study. I hope he will. He'll explain the case study. Then I'll say something about the first step, deriving these project goals. And then you'll be set to work, and we'll do that very simple. We raise the question for step number 1, and you're going to discuss that with your neighbor for about 10 to 15 minutes, let's say 10 minutes. And then we'll pick up the results with the microphone. And during the discussions, we'll walk around, and if you want help, don't hesitate. But just do that with your neighbor, and then we'll pick up the results. Okay, is that clear, the way we're going to do it? Yes, so I hope we'll keep you awake. Wiebe, can you tell us something about the case?
Yeah. So this case study was actually brought in by someone who is, I think here, I'm not sure.
Well, I've done the slides.
Thomas has done the slides. Okay, so you can introduce. I can introduce it. It's actually a road project. So the next one, please. Oh, here. Sorry, I'm in charge of the. Yep. Nope. So this is a 2.3 road project here in Czech Republic. It's a design-build project, actually you see the award criteria, but that's what we're going to do in the case study, so we're going to discuss this. It's around 35 million euros, and I had mentioned 2.3. So this is a picture. Do you have anything to say about this picture? I'm not a technical person, so I have no idea. Let's look at the next slide. It gives us... Oh, Jaap is an engineer. Oh, Thomas.
To jsem zpracoval já na základě technické dokumentace, kterou jsem dostal z ŘSD. Já jsem původně požádal o 1 stránku nějakého summary a pak jsem dostal asi 300 stránek technické dokumentace. Tak jsem se to pokusil trošku vyzobat pro vás. Pan Brázdil tady teďkom náhodou asi není, koukám. Já jsem ho viděl, snad se k nám dostaví. Tak je to každopádně projekt, který ŘSD zvažuje, jestli ho zadat jako červený FIDIC nebo žlutý FIDIC, to znamená, je to otevřeno. Je to projekt relativně sice malý, ale technicky relativně komplikovaný, to znamená, z našeho pohledu tam ten žlutý FIDIC by se to možná hodilo. A je tam řada, jak jsem říkal, je to technicky komplikovaný, je tam most přes Vltavu, 3 další mosty, 2 mostní, indukční objekty, přejezd železniční trať, jak jste to viděli na tom obrázku, takže relativně komplikovaná záležitost. Nebojíme se toho, máme tady mezi sebou řadu expertů, tak doufám, že přijmu k něčemu zajímavému. Myslím si, že to bude trošku interaktivní, nám nemůže uškodit. I think you don't need it anymore. I just finished. I give them encouragement.
I think we should let the project characteristics. We leave them on the. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
that's the first assignment. Is this project clear for everyone? You get the basic idea about the project?
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Where's my... Yeah. Okay. Step one is to establish your project goals. And what are project goals? Well, the project goal is not the product. Let me set that very clear. So it's not, the project goals is not simply building this bridge. That's not the project goal. The project goal is always related, actually, to items that are more project or process management, or has to do with the environment, or whatever. So these themes, even of this, well, technically looking project, it can be something else. Perhaps you remember this morning I mentioned a project in Amsterdam around Central Station, where we have all sort of infrastructural work, but the main project goal there was diminish the negative consequences for travelers, for instance. So that was a very important project goal. And that has nothing to do with what do I build? Do I build a new quay or whatever? No, it's about how do you do this project. That's one of the main project goals for that project. So think in terms of that. In this case, of course, be a little bit of creative, because you know as much as I do about this project. It's almost nothing. So it's more just an example of you have a case now. Think about what might be the project goals in this project. 2.3 kilometers of road, including a bridge and so on. What could be the project goals in this project? Is that clear? Can you work with that? Try to think of elements that could serve as project goals. Okay? Okay, and then I want to challenge you, go to your neighbor and try in the next 10 minutes together to establish a couple of project goals that could serve here eventually for the meet criteria. Is that clear? Okay?
Yep.
We'll walk around. And if you have any questions, please.
Energie is wel een beetje uit, ja? Merk ik.
How do you get it up?
Ja, even rondlopen.
We hebben geen flip over, hè? Dingen op de site.
Zal ik even gaan typen anders?
Nee, hier kan. Typ maar gewoon in de sheet, denk ik.
Do you need something? No. Do you need something? Or?
No, he's going to type.
I will type in the results.
Okay, but you have to type it.
Okay. 10 minutes are over. You'll do it in 10 days. In Holland, this takes us 2 months, I think. 10 minutes. Well, I'll just ask someone. Are you ready? You ready? Yes. Can you tell us some project goals? Yeah?
My jsme tady vedli samozřejmě diskuzi především o tom projektu, o kterém jsme mnoho nevěděli, nicméně z toho, co jsme věděli. Takže z toho, co jsme věděli, což bylo velmi málo, tak jsme usoudili, že když jde o výstavbu silnice, která patrně odvede dopravu z nějaké jiné lokality, tak cílem projektu bude pravděpodobně snížení kongesce, snížení hlučnosti, odstranění úzkých míst někde v jiné části sítě. Potom samozřejmě to může snižovat celkové náklady na údržbu, to už jako jsou takové věci, které samozřejmě spekulujeme, snižovat dopady na životní prostředí.
Zvýšení bezpečnosti.
Zvýšit bezpečnost, samozřejmě snížit nehodovost někde, kde je problém tím, že vybudují nějakou bezpečnější část sítě. Takže to je tak v kostce naše diskuze.
Okay, thank you. What you describe are the goals of the project after it's finished. So it's right, like you say, it should diminish traffic jams and that sort of thing. The question was somewhat different. The question was when you have to do this project. I heard you say something about environment. Didn't you say that? Or yeah. So you might say, okay, we have an environment. How can this project lead to a better control of environment, or perhaps a better environment anyway in the road? But okay, that's one. The rest of what you mentioned are goals after the project is accomplished. So they're not really the goals we're looking for in terms of how do we make a meet criteria. So I'll go to someone else. I'll go over here. You have something written. So can you explain what you have?
Yes. There is a city strategy, as I know, to be the city on the roads crossing. And this bypass of the city, or part of the bypass, should connect two main roads coming to the city. So maybe fulfilling of this strategy to be the city on the roads crossing. It's one reason. Another one is to split local transport and long distance transport, because currently all transport is coming through the city. It's probably another one. Again, I can repeat, and it's possible to expect it noise, dust, and similar issues, environmental, because south of this area and where is current transport, there is housing estates and possible to find, and highly density of population is there. So the current situation influences a lot of people.
Okay.
Negative.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I hear something with the surrounding, the people around it, and also you're talking about the negative effects, right?
Negative effects current situation.
In the current situation. Okay. Perhaps I should make my question a little bit different. You should think about the moment this project is finished. When is it a success? That also has to do with the project goals. You know, when people say, we've done this project, 35 million, very good, we regard it as a success. Then often people think about, okay, we didn't have any discussions with the people living around it, or it was faster than we planned to do it, or whatever. We didn't have so much waste as we normally have in a project, or these are project goals. That's what we mean.
Yeah,
right,
so the things that you have addressed, and you as well, are the what questions, and we are looking for the how questions. So how do you want the project to be run in the execution? So we're looking for someone who has maybe ideas about this how question. So maybe someone else. And I've seen a few groups that I think I couldn't read what you wrote down in Czech, but do you have something maybe?
Does anyone have any how criteria on this project? Yes, you have one?
Well, besides the obvious on budget and on time, it would be how is it managed in terms of the construction itself, so it minimizes the impact during construction on the other communications. So on the railway track. So basically during the construction, it doesn't impact negatively the other roads and crossings that it actually overlaps.
Ah, that's a very good one. I think we have one, Wiebe. We have one. Okay, this is a how. This is really this is a very good project goal. So one of the project goals we have is that the construction of this project should cause as minimal distraction or negative effects on, for instance, the railway it has to cross. So that's a very good one. That's a good one. There was a railway, wasn't there? Yeah, okay. This is a good example. This is a how question. Okay, anything else? Be creative. I mean, it's just an example, this project. You perhaps there's a village near this project with people living in it. It's possible. Yeah, you have one?
Maybe reduction of noise during construction, or shortening the time period for construction, or maybe also some architectural design that should look nice at the end of the project. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Reduction of noise. It sounds like diminishing the negative effects in the surrounding. Oh, that's a good one. That's also a how question. Very good. Yeah, that's one. Anything else? Yeah, you have one?
So maybe in the Czech Republic it's very popular that as many as possible local companies will be involved in the construction.
That's a very nice one. Did everyone hear that? Take as many as possible local companies as subcontractors, probably, in the project. There's always some tension with lawyers in this, especially if it's a big project on European directive. But it might be a good one to achieve as much possible positive economic effects in the region. Something like that. Oh, that could be a how. Yes, let's put that one up as well. Do you have that, Wiebe? Okay. Positive economic effects, yes, for local companies or the region. Okay. Now we have quite a lot of possible project goals. I think we'll do with this. So we'll have reduce congestion, and that has to be then congestion during the execution phase. So it's possible. Reduce cost of maintenance. That's a difficult one for a project goal. What do you think?
It could be possible if there is some...
Microphone, please. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it could be possible if there is some possibility to have maybe a variant. If the contractors get the space to offer a variant which maybe has less maintenance costs, then you could put it into the equation. If the design is fixed and there's no space for creativity in terms of maintenance cost, this wouldn't help much. But you could take this into account, even in a design-build contract, I think. Yes.
Yeah, sure. I think so too. Well, if you look at the directive, it says something about LCC, life cycle costing, that has directly to do with this. So you can, it's a very good possibility, use LCC or whatever kind of maintenance costs for your project goals. Decrease the accident rate.
Again, when it's during the execution, could be a project goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll let that.
It could be a project goal in terms of how smart are you in thinking about interim measurements during construction in order to decrease the accident rate.
Actually, if I might comment on this, in my agency, we never use safety for the meet criteria because we think safety is conditional, so it should be as safe as possible. So we, as a rule of policy, we don't use safety in the meet criteria because we just think it has to be safe, right?
Yeah.
But you could theoretically use it, of course, but
yeah.
we don't.
Okay, minimize impact on railway. That's a good one. You know, the railway is very important, so the risk of something happening that causes the railway to stop or so, you don't want that.
Yeah, and I think in Holland also, if the railway is interrupted, then they have like a slot, and it has to be allocated far in advance, and you want it to be as short as possible. So I think the trains, they keep on running. So this is a really good one, I think.
Yes, I think so too. Reduce the noise during construction. That's a good one.
Could also be a good one.
It can be measured very well. Architectural design. Extra quality on architectural design. What do you think of that, Wiebe? Is it a possibility?
It is a possibility, and we've seen it at the Rijkswaterstaat. I don't think you can do it for all types of bridges, but if the way it looks is of importance, you could take it into the account. And I would recommend maybe in this case that you have some expert architects looking at the design and deciding whether it's nice or not. But we have some examples in the Netherlands. For instance, the bridge in Nijmegen where we did this, and we have a really nice bridge now. So it could work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Speed of delivery. It's simply very straightforward.
Yeah, that's a very common one, and we use it frequently. Speed of delivery, because we want projects to be as short as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last one, achieve positive economic effects for the region or local companies. I don't know if you have used this one ever before. No. It's too complicated in the way of legal aspects. It's a bit difficult. So I propose we skip the last one, and we'll use the other ones for step number 2. Step number 2 is from these. How many do we have them? 2, 4, 6, 7. If we skip the last one. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you again to discuss with your neighbor or with a group or anyone else. Based on these 7 project goals, I want you to choose 4 and meet criteria of them. So try to go one level further in detail. How would the project goals you're choosing, how would they be a good criteria? Is that clear? So we're now going to make it criteria. So think about you're a contractor and you get this document and it says these are the meet criteria. How can you score on these criteria? What do you have to do in order to get a maximum score on these criteria? So choose 4 of them and try to work them out a little bit further in order they can work out as a meet criteria. Is it clear? Okay, just try. Just struggle, okay? We'll walk around again. I'll give you again 10 minutes.
Okay, maybe to make it completely clear, so you have to take the client's perspective here, right? So you are the client and you're looking for criteria. So you're not the contractor, you're the client. And what are the criteria that you're using? Okay?
A klient myšlen jako veřejný zadavatel.
Okay,
So we continue?
we're just going to continue. Well, I asked you the question, pick 4 out of 7. And I didn't tell you anything of how to do it. Well, you just do it like this, or throw up a coin. When you have a challenge like this,
Yeah.
what are the arguments on which you're choosing? Why would you choose one of these 4? Can
Okay,
you
so-
say something about that?
Yeah, so what we do in a project, usually we sit down with the project team, and with the project team we come up with these ideas. And then what we do is we go back to the client. So that's the how is it, opdrachtgever?
Principle.
The principal. You go back to the principal, and you ask him what he thinks is important. So that's one thing we do, because he's funding the money. And then what we also do is we go to the stakeholders that are involved in the project. Could be the municipality or province or whatever. And we also ask them what they think is important. And what they say is important for us, because project success is not only success of the infrastructure asset manager, it's also the success of the environment. So I think these two parties, the principal and the stakeholders, are very important to find out which one of these project goals is actually the key success factors in this project. So that's what we do.
And I think you also look at how discriminating can they be.
Yes, okay, so of course we look at that. So if, say that life cycle costs would be of importance, but we were discussing this in a group in the back. If there are only bridges, bridges are designed for a period of 100 years, so there's not much discriminating in designing a bridge. If it has to stand there for 100 years, then it's not very discriminating, and then cost of maintenance would be not such an interesting criteria. Whereas if you talk about a road that has been done every 7 to 10 years, then there's high maintenance cost, and then it might be a good idea to look at the maintenance. So depending on the project, you see if it's more or less discriminating, and then you decide on which project goals you want to take into the equation.
Yeah, because discriminate, that's you always have to think about, okay, I am the client, I put up all these specifications and what I want on meet criteria, but you also have to think about how are they going to be discriminating when I give this to 5 bidders, because they have to be discriminating. If they're not, well, then this meet criteria doesn't have any influence. So that's what you're saying on LCC, for instance. So Wiebe is now walking,
Yes.
and he's going to
volunteers?
ask.
Anyone who has a brilliant idea?
Yeah.
I think did you develop an idea? Anyone of you want to comment? In English or in Czech, if you want. Yeah, you? The Czech? No? No. The lawyer.
We came up with several criteria which could be used in our view. The first one was basically the time that it takes until the commissioning and until the basically use of the roads. So we would be requiring a number of weeks from the handover of the site until the project is handed over to us. So that was the first criterion. So it would be a number of weeks it would take the contractor who would assume the permits, right?
Yeah,
So
does everyone understand this? So what he's saying, I think, is if he delivers 1 week earlier or 2 weeks earlier, he earns extra points or extra money, and that is deducted from his price. And that is a way to incentivize the contractor to speed up the delivery. Is that what you're saying?
exactly.
Okay.
In turn, can minimize the impact. Faster delivery can minimize the impact on the environment, like
Because they have less nuisance from the project anyway. So that's a fairly easy one, right? Speed of delivery, and it's also pretty objective, I would say, because you can measure the speed of delivery. Yeah.
Just one question. The speed of delivery is a nice idea, but what happens if the contractor is then not able to do it on that time? And you had it as a award criteria. You give them a fine, or what do you do?
So the question is, what can you do if he makes a nice promise and he doesn't keep his promise, right? That's what you're saying. At Rijkswaterstaat, we have a policy for this type of promises that if they break their promise, they get a fine, and the fine is 1.5 times the amount of money they earned in the meet. So that's what we do. Another way to check if the promises are valid, I guess, is the clarification phase. I mean, if someone presents a plan to you and it's really too good to be true, before I would sign the contract, I would really talk to this contractor and ask him how is he going to realize this thing, which seems almost impossible. And I think that's a more natural way before. So that would also be my advice if that happens. And actually, in the best value projects, we don't have the fine in the end, and even still, we see that the contractors, they deliver what they promise. So, but if you're afraid of that, then you can always use the fine as like a stick behind the door. You know what I mean? Yes. Okay. So thanks for this delivery speed. I'll move on to, I think, this group because you had some ideas, I guess. So.
Well, we were thinking about the reduction of the maintenance cost because in current practice in the Czech Republic, the minimum price for the construction cost is preferred, and it does not lead to the cost of the maintenance. So this is something what can be used. And
do you have any ideas on how you can measure?
Well, I think that we discussed that. It should be according to the life cycle of the materials used in construction process, and that's it.
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit on that. At Rijkswaterstaat, we have built a model, and in this model, we keep the maintenance cost for certain types of materials. And if you know the maintenance cost, you can actually put it into the equation. So the contractors, they get to choose different materials, and they have different maintenance costs, and you just add it up to their price. And this way you can, even in a design-build contract, it's possible to look at life cycle costs. So I think this can actually be done.
Okay, shall we choose that one then?
Yeah.
Maintenance cost?
Maintenance cost?
Yeah.
Yes. And you? Do you have another idea? For one of the other 4 criteria?
Okay, we're looking for two extra.
Two
We want
extra.
4. Which one?
I think the important is minimize impact on the railway in this case. But I'm not sure how to do it.
How to do it? That's the last question. But okay, you want to choose this one. Shall we take this one, Wiebe? Yes. Yep. Okay. Okay. Now one more. Any preferences?
I think also the architectural design is
very nice.
very important
Very nice.
for
Yep.
everybody. So therefore, I would propose this one.
Okay. No one against it?
Okay.
Okay. Now, there's another question. I asked you for 4, but why only 4? Why not all 7? Is there a reason behind it, or is it just that I thought, well, 4 is enough? Anyone? Yep.
The weights, the criteria, so changes in the weights would not be significant. It would basically dilute the weights of the criteria.
Yes, very good. You really have to limit your criteria. If you take 7 criteria, then the more you take, the less difficult, the more it becomes a sort of average. You know, you score good on the one, and you score less on the other, and then the discriminating effect is diminished when you choose too much criteria. So that's why I said only 4. That's enough. Together with price, then you have 5 criteria. And 5 is working. While 8 or 10, it's too much. It's not working. So that's why I said 4. Okay, now we have 4 criteria. The red ones. Yeah, okay. Well, the next step is think about the weight of these criteria. Of course, you choose a percentage, but I want to know, I'm a little bit interested in the percentage, but also why are you choosing this percentage? So, again, 10 minutes. Think about the percentages of these 4 red.
And would give them
Meet criteria.
100 points or something, and they have to attribute the points to the 4 topics?
Yes, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So you take 100, and you divide these 100 points over these 4 criteria. Okay? And why do you do it? Not 4 times 25, okay? Okay, you finished? Well, it's a bit like the European Song Festival. May I have your votes, please? How high are you? Perhaps here. Sorry? Oh yeah, handig. What are the points for the 4 and why? You do it in Polish? Or, oh, we do it together, okay.
So, first of all, maintenance is life cycle, it's long term, it's about huge amount of money, therefore importance is the highest.
Okay.
35%.
35%, okay.
Another one is railway impact during the construction phase. 30% because of interruption of traffic to the north-south, České Budějovice, Prague. It would be disaster for a lot of people. So 30%. architecture design, everybody will see the result of the design for decades.
Yep.
So 20%, and speed of delivery, people living there are waiting for this 20 years. So if they will wait 2 weeks or 2 months more, it's no reason.
Very good arguments, very good arguments.
15.
So 15%.
15%.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone wants to reflect on this? I know there's a group that has a total different... that's you, is it? Or,
Okay.
yeah?
Actually, it would be the contrary.
Yeah.
So we think it's a project, so the speed of delivery has to be discriminating between contractors, so 40%. Then cost of maintenance, because it's a huge budget, so 40%.
Okay.
No, 30%.
30?
30. Then minimized impact on railway, 20. And finally, architecture is quite subjective, and I mean, like this project has to be efficient. If it's nice, it's also good, but the main idea is to be efficient, so 10%.
Okay. Well, that's different. But you also have arguments for this. Yeah, very good. Okay. Well, can you give us your scores
Yeah, of course.
and the argumentation?
So we decided that the reduction of cost of the maintenance should have some 50% because the road is constructed for 100 years, and the cost of maintenance is, in the perspective of the life cycle costs, the much more important than the investment costs.
Yeah.
In fact, so we put 50%.
50.
50.
Okay.
And then we put the same weight for the speed of delivery and minimize impact on railway, because we think that these criteria are interconnected a little bit. So we put there 20% for the minimize impact.
20?
20%, yes,
Yeah.
20. And for the speed of delivery, also 20. And the architectural design, we put 10%, and the reason is, as it was already mentioned here, it's hardly measurable criteria, very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, only 10.
Okay.
Yeah, just to add that we see that the impact on the railway during execution and the reduce of cost, and the speed of delivery, that these are rather long, short or medium-term goals. While and now in our construction, it has together 40%, while the lower maintenance and life cycle costs are long-term goals, which should have in aggregate higher weight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny, because I heard it before. One argument over there was architectural design is important because we have to look at this bridge for 100 years. So that's the same what you're saying, only on another criteria. You know, and you say, well, it's difficult to measure. That's the short-term argument, because once it's there, it has its effect for 100 years. So that's always a nice discussion. So it looks like an auction. Do I have any higher bids? Anyone different than these? Where's my microphone? I thought I had two. Oh, there. Okay. Yeah, you want to say something?
Maybe one comment regarding the life cycle cost.
Yes,
because
I'll do that afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. Okay. Okay. Can you give us your scores?
We have almost the same scores as the last group. We gave 50% to the maintenance for the same reason, that it's important and the costs are really high. We gave a little bit more to the speed of delivery. We gave 30% to that.
Okay.
15% would be the impact on railway. We actually had a question there because we're not sure if it's not like double qualification or double criteria, because it's already, I think it's already in price. the number of days times a certain cost is probably the part of the price already. So I don't know if the contractor wouldn't be negatively affected twice for this criteria. And architectural design is not very important to us, so we give 5%.
Okay. You're not architects, no. Okay, 5% only. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? 50, 80, 95, yeah, 5%. Only 5%. You probably would leave it out then, right? 5% is almost nothing. Okay. Yeah. Let me remark, you had a remark about LCC. Can you state that?
So our understanding was that this should be the non-financial criteria, but life cycle cost, in fact, is the part of the price. So therefore, it's maybe not methodological, somehow fully correctly to include it here.
Absolutely right. Wiebe, can you comment on that? I've put it in on purpose. But there's a discussion always about LCC, or discussion. What do you do with it?
I completely agree with your point. So life cycle cost is something you can actually measure and you can monetize it. So you can use it as the start of your award. So I totally agree with you, and that's also, when we started at Rijkswaterstaat, we used it as sort of a qualitative criterion. But the direction we are heading right now is that it's becoming a part of the price. So we take the lowest life cycle costs, and then we look at the other criteria. So I would agree with you on this topic.
Yeah.
So you're right.
There's even some jurisdiction in Holland about this element, that they say, well, it's not discriminating because actually, or even the one client was fined because in the end, because there was a huge weight on LCC, and the judge said, okay, if you have price and LCC, and it's so weighted actually that the other criteria don't count, that actually what you've done is awarding on price. So it looked like meat, but in the effect it was 90%, I think, or 95% was price. So you're not doing meat. So he was fined. So it's very good to realize what you say. LCC is actually an element of price, like you do at Rijkswaterstaat. Okay, now we have these four, and what you saw about these percentages, they can range quite extensively from almost nothing until 40%. And that's the discussion you have in your project team when you are constructing the meet criteria. So you have to argument, you have to discuss what do we think is important. And again, you can go back to your client, for instance, if these are the percentages, do you agree or why don't you agree? So you have to, in that way, establish these weights, including what I just said, make it only 4, otherwise it just averages out and it doesn't have much effect as it should have. Okay, we're going to the last step. I already heard something about that. The last step is a challenge. If we have these 4 elements on meat, how are we going to assess it? How are we going to assess them? So think about these 4, and then think about, okay, we have to establish some sort of description to give to the bidders so that the bidders know how are they going to achieve a maximum score on this element. How, when I'm a bidder, how can I score maximum on maintenance? Perhaps that's not the most difficult one, but try to describe that on all 4 elements. So, well, just give us the description. How can we, if you're, just think about you're an assessor, you get 5 bids, how do you compare them? How do you achieve the score on each of these 4 elements? Is it clear? Ten minutes again.
Okay, shall we wrap it up, Jaap? Even the catering is leaving the building, so we might consider...
We have such a nice subject, don't we? Okay.
So we're almost there. We are happy that you're still with us. that means that you're really interested, so thanks for that.
At the end
Okay.
of the afternoon, only the visionaries are here, right?
Visionaries, they
Okay, this is not, what we ask you is not such a simple question. How do you assess? Because when we talked about acceptance, when we talked about transparency, this is all about the way you assess. So you have to be able afterwards to explain to all your bidders why they haven't made the final and best offer, for instance, and that depends on the way you assess. So it's very important to think about how are you going to, well, assess all these bids on these elements. So let's look at the four elements. I think the cost of maintenance, especially if it's really LCC, I don't think that's very difficult, is it? Is it? How are you going to assess price? Wiebe, is it difficult?
No, I think it's fairly easy, but the thing that makes it maybe complex is that as a government agency, you need to come up with figures that you can tie into the materials that were proposed. So that's maybe the things that make it complex. So you need a database, and you need data on what it costs. But if you have that, then it's fairly easy to compute. But there should be some engineers that can come up with these figures. So,
yeah. So that's what you need to do when you want to assess this element. Well, let's look at another one. Let's look at the speed of delivery. Can I ask it to anyone? Yeah.
did you think of speed of delivery? Anything?
How are you going to assess speed of delivery?
So according to the speed of delivery, we just weren't able to find anything different than just number of days. It's just
Yeah.
so simple. So our question is whether there's something else to think about.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's very straightforward and simple. Days or weeks of... let's say that government agencies set a certain date that it had to be finished, and they are finished so many days earlier, or so many weeks earlier, so many months earlier. And that's very easy. I mean, very straightforward, very objective as well. I mean, who will go to court if for this criterion? I think it's very objective.
Yeah.
So
there's one risk in this element, especially if you, as a client, you give a planning as a sort of reference.
Yeah.
You have to study on this reference, for instance, that it's not too tight. Because if it's a very tight planning, probably all the bidders will say, okay, I'll do it in the planning, but I can't do it any faster. If they all five say the same, then there's no discriminating effect on this criterion. So you have to be aware that if you set a planning, if you set a sort of delivery date, it has to be possible to do something with it. If it's too strict, they all will say, okay, we'll do that on the 1st of December, and no one is any faster. You understand what I'm saying? Because if they all say, okay, 1st of December, this criteria is not having any effect.
there's another pitfall with the speed of delivery. That is when you give sort of a maximum budget they can earn. And then what we have seen is sometimes that all the contractors, they go to the maximum maximum score. So it's best to just leave it open and let yourselves be surprised, even though it might end up in a very high score. So yeah.
Okay, let's look at the impact on the railway during execution. How are we going to measure this? Anyone who has been creative on this one? Yes?
We think that we just should solve construction faster. You know, it's maybe the same goal as speed of delivery, in our opinion.
We thought of different way of approaching it, and it would be basically evaluating a number of planned outages or interruptions in the service. So the contractor would suggest that we would need, let's say, 20 days of interruptions, planned interruptions, and we would then score these. Yeah.
Yeah. The less interruptions, the better.
The less interruptions, the better.
Yes. Okay.
Or perhaps what Wiebe told you, we have time slots. When you want to work at a railway, you have to be a year or even sooner, give a time slot. And well, perhaps if you have measurements that reduce the risk of this time slot being exaggerated, well, that's a possibility. So that's the way you can assess this element. Well, then
Jaap's favorite one.
Well, my favorite one, architectural design. How are you going to measure architectural design? When is one design
what is beautiful
better than the other or scores more point? You know, any idea? Yeah, you weren't in favor of architecture, were you? Okay.
Okay, we had a chance to discuss it shortly with you before this step came. So it was mentioned that there is a group of respected architects who make their subjective evaluation, but on the other side, usually there should be some set of, let's say, architectural main components or ideas, how the work should look like, how it should be composed with in the landscape and so on. So there will be probably two points of view. First one is the compliance with those criteria, and the second one is the art or subjective view of the respected architectures.
Well, this is not as a criteria. This is always a very difficult discussion, also in competitions only on design. Sometimes they have a setup where civilians can also give their opinion. For instance, in a city, where you build a new city hall, you know, you let all the civilians look at the maquettes and the designs, and you give them scores. And then there's a team of experts, and you let them score as well. And then you almost always see that they score completely different than the civilians. So you really have to think beforehand, how am I going to do this? Because it's definitely from these four, it's the element with the most the amount of subjectivity. It's very difficult.
But it has been done, and they also succeeded. But it's more subjective, I would agree.
Yeah. And what would you do, Wiebe, on this element?
Well, I mentioned before the city of Nijmegen. They had, like the gentleman proposed, they had a city or a commission with architects, and they looked at the design, and they gave beforehand certain aspects that they were looking at. So it's not only beautiful, but they have certain aspects that they thought were important in the design. So they give some idea of what is important in the architectural design. And I think that's what you should do, because otherwise it's like a shot in the dark, right? You have no idea. So you have to give the contractor some idea as to what you find important aspects in the architectural design. Because as it is right now, I think it's too big. Yeah.
Agree. You have to give some sort of elements. That's right. Okay. Well, then we're ready. Then we can start the procedure. So
let's procure.
Let's procure. We have price and we have these other award criteria. What we haven't discussed is how much weight are you going to put on price and how much weight are you going to put on these four elements? Did you think about that? What would you do? How much weight are we going to put on price? How much would you dare? Anyone? No? Well, you said something about it.
I already said something about it,
yeah.
And it should be, let's say, at least to avoid price competition, you should always go 50% or higher, because if price is dominant, then you end up in a low price competition and you get all the effects that I described. So if you go quality, I mean, you should give it a respectable weight. Otherwise, I think you should even avoid it and just go low price. I have some experience. I did a tunnel in Utrecht, And at those days, we did 15% of quality. And we thought that was really tough because it was really nice because it was the first time we did it. But in the end, we ended up with the lowest price contractor. And if I look back at that experience, it's logical. But at this time, we didn't know that. So I would say 50% or more, at least, to start with.
Yeah.
My suggestion.
Yeah, my experience as well. If it's less than 50%, then quality, then it's not enough.
No, price becomes dominant.
Yeah, price becomes dominant. Because there's one other element, and then I think we'll close. If you assess these elements, you have to be very aware of how you're assessing and what your assessors will do. Because if you score, for instance, from 1 to 10, then everyone who is an assessor will be back on grammar school and will think, okay, a 10, I won't give anyone a 10 because that's perfect. I won't give anyone a 1 because that's too low. That's almost, well, like it's not good enough. So everyone will score in the range of 4 till 8 sometimes. And if you then calculate what's happening, is that you see that the effect is not 50%, stating that you have 50-50. So you have to look at these statistical elements, the statistical structure of how you're going to judge. But that's going into science now.
Maybe for the masterclass.
Yeah, that's for the masterclass. That's right.
So I think we're wrapping up. And you would like to say some last words, Thomas? Or? Okay. Yeah.
If I may say last few words, and I will also ask you to say some final words. Já bych chtěl, okay, I will probably speak in English. Okay, no, it's fine. I would love to stress just a few points which I remember from today's venue. Gentlemen, thank you very much. It was very interesting. The point which was very interesting for me, you said once you start to focus on the quality, if you go for the high quality, it automatically starts drive the price down. So you finally end up with lots of bids where you select the best quality bid, and you realize that it's actually the lowest price. Do you want to comment? Could you want to just agree that that's the right strategy? Actually, yesterday you mentioned from the perspective of the public authority, looking at the contractors. When you go for the lowest price, it's like lottery. From the point of view of the contractors, it's just lottery. They get the bill, ticket, and they just hope that they win or no. Once you go for the quality, you actually put emphasis and pressure on the contractors to understand, to spend time, invest in the deal. If you could maybe...
Yeah, actually, the point I was making yesterday is that if it's a low price, it really is a lottery, and they have a certain hit rate, whether if they're going to win the lottery or not, and they know that. If you go more based on quality, what we found out was that the contractors, they become more aware of what type of projects they're bidding for, and they start to become more selective on what type of projects they are bidding. So what we've seen in the Netherlands, actually, that the number of contractors that's bidding for the contracts, when you go meat-based award, the number of contractors is going down because the contractors start to think whether they can win this project or not. Do they have the expertise and the skills to differentiate themselves from their competitors? So I think that's also a very positive point from going to meet. I think in a low price competition, you will see everyone entering because everyone has a chance because it's a lottery. So I was talking to some Czech people, and they told me that you have this problem, that you have like 10 or 20 vendors competing for a contract. And I think that's for me, that's a characteristic of a low price system. And in that aspect, I would really also recommend Meet to get this number of competitors to a
Yeah, I think this is very interesting. We always tend to complain at the public authorities how they do things wrong, and I think that's let's turn it other way around. Let's put the pressure on the contractors to invest and come up with a solution to care more. Wiebe, could you comment on when you look at the percentage of the projects procured as on the red FIDIC, yellow FIDIC, or PPP in the Netherlands?
Okay, if I look in my agency, like for all the new build projects, we go above, as I explained, above the 65 million euro, we go PPP. And below that, everything is design build. So that's the only thing we do. So we just said every contract we tender is a design build or a design build finance maintain. So we only have these two contract forms. We completely quit from one day to the other. We quit with the design bid build. We just said we don't do that anymore. So
that's amazing. And probably the last thing I remember, which struck me, is I understand that your company, the agency, is actually the future, even for the Czech investment agencies, is the transformation when they transform from the procurement agency. We are focused on the procurement. We think we have to procure. You actually are transformed into more like private investor, public investor. You manage the risks and you manage the projects. That's what amazing for me. I think we should focus on what we say in Czech Republic. The public sector don't understand the risks. They don't manage the risk. They don't admit the risks. So this is, I think, where we very appreciate what you say, gentlemen. This is all on my side. I don't know if anyone from the audience would love to say anything else. If I can ask you, what would be the next 2-3 steps Czech Republic should took, and even maybe Slovak Republic. Okay. For Mr. Kováčik.
So I can comment on that a little bit. Okay, so I think hopefully today we have inspired you a little bit, and you have some things you want to think about when you drive home for the weekend. For me, what's important, I think it's important to keep it simple, keep things simple. Simplicity is always good, and I would like to stress this point, because I think the more complex you make it, the less successful you will be, and especially with regard to this topic, meet criteria, just keep things simple. And best value is a way to make things simple, but there are lots of other ways, as we've just shown you. So that I'd like to stress that. And yes, another thing is find visionary people. I'd like to use that word again. That really want to adopt this way of working, and I hope that there are some leaders in the government that want to support this. And from what I've heard today from the minister, I think he might be a suitable person to make the change. And I would suggest that you start small, and not like us with a very big program, but you start small and you make it successful, and you go from there. That would really be my advice.
Yes, and I want to stress one more thing. This is not something that's only for the clients. If you want to have make this new approach a success, you also have to take your contractors and your engineers with you. You know, you have to educate together. You have to learn together. So don't think I'm the client and I know how it works, and then in the end you'll have a not successful project because the contractors don't know what you're doing. They don't understand the principles. They don't understand the philosophy. We haven't mentioned that, but if you start a BVP project, at the beginning of the project, you organize a whole day sometimes just for the contractors. You invite them and you explain about the project, you explain about best value procurement, you explain about your expectations of what they are going to do, how the process is being, how the procedures will take place. So you spend a lot of time and effort in communication on your expectations about when you use best value procurement. So you're educating the bidders. That's what you're doing, and that's necessary, because if you don't do that, they won't understand, and you will get the wrong offers, and you will get the wrong process. So it's not just a matter of only the client. You have to take the bidders with you. That's important.
And so, yeah, who knows? We might help you in the future. I don't know, but I love being here, and thanks for the audience anyway.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I can promise you that on behalf of the Czech Infrastructure Association, we will try to keep in touch with you, and we will definitely cooperate with the Minister of Transport and support any further cooperation, even through the embassy. Okay, thank you to all that you stayed with us.